7 years ago, on this day, the blastoff event happened. The event that would be the catalyst in making Fortnite the biggest game in the world. The domino effect that this event caused really gave Fortnite an element that no other game, even to this day, can really compete with. In-game live events. And it was so nice, they're gonna do it twice. July 26th, the blastoff event happens again. Will it be different? Will it be the same? We're not entirely sure. Some things are not adding up. At this point, we've accounted 2 styles of Morse code. It's happening again, and something's wrong. But on the Fortnite OG map, the Meteorite is here once again, and cracks are starting to show. Soon, the visitor will make his escape and go to the villain's lair to begin repurposing the rocket. Currently, the visitor reality unknown is obtainable through the battle pass, through the OG battle pass. So if you end up purchasing that, consider using creator code MRJOY in the Fortnite item shop, #ad, #epicpartner. But of course, with the blastoff event set to happen again, it has sparked a lot of intrigue back in the storyline, and because of that, there's a lot of theories to talk about and to ponder. Is Chapter 1 OG our 2018? Is it the current day and the flip side of Oronoshima? Because of course, during the Star Wars event, we discovered this island is encased in a bubble. Now, of course, we have seen this bubble before. Chapter 2, Chapter 3 definitely had a bubble. For the other islands, it's a little more difficult to have a overall sensors on that. Now, in that video, I may have not dived too deeply into the possibility of the Chapter 1 map having a bubble, but definitely looking back at Chapter 1 events, there's definitely some moments where it's at least implied there's some form of a bubble. One of them would be the blastoff event and the crack that was left in the sky. A crack that would directly be used to tie in next season's story with Kevin the Cube. Now, I do believe that Chapter 1 OG will tie into Chapter 6, but probably not in a way that you think. Now, most people are going with the time travel theory, and I don't think that really needs to be the case. Although this could end up being the case, of course. But I want to take this in another direction. So looking for a tweet signifying that, it's been 7 years since the blastoff event, I came across this theory by Revised, which implies this is how the visitor could get to the Chapter 6 map if OG is indeed the flip side of Oronoshima. But I would go one further and imply a trade-off. The visitor for the cube. Now, it's kind of implied that the spirit realm does have something to do with the last reality, and I've always believed that cubes are powered through souls, i.e. spirits. And of course, Diego currently has the Storm King and his army working for him. And it's implied that the Storm King is also a demon. I believe that most of the power of the last reality comes through souls, and actually almost every power source, to be fair, is kind of proven this season with the fact that the Spirit Realm portal blew up and released a massive amount of power that gave people superhero powers. So make of that what you will. But anyway, this connection here is how we can get Kevin the Cube, or a cube, on the Chapter OG map, if indeed the Chapter OG map is the flip side of Oronoshima. So eventually this beam will return to the island and will be hitting the bubble. And once the OG event happens, that will crack the bubble, leaving a backdoor theory, so the last reality can get Kevin onto the OG island. This is not me implying this is how it happened originally. The Spirit Realm portal isn't necessarily how Kevin the Cube arrived originally, but this is how the OG map is being influenced by the Chapter 6 map. It's how it's happening now, and how we're observing how it happens here. And that also doesn't imply that what's happened before has been changed. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4 still occurs how it did, but we're in a narrative paradox that is always moving forward. I mean, again, there could have been a flip side to the original Chapter 1, and a similar event occurred on the other side to make Kevin go to our original Chapter 1 map. Also, guys, if you're enjoying this theory, make sure to leave a like on the video. The more likes, the more comments, the more engagement. YouTube pushes the video to more people, so thank you for anyone who does anything, even watches the video. That's fine. Thank you. Okay, now I'm starting to see why Hope's graffiti implies the rocket. Actually, let's quickly make our way over to the Supernova Academy. Okay, so what people believe to be the rocket seems to be coming out of a spire. Of course, this is an artist's representation that doesn't imply the rocket's going to come out of the spire, which is then lined up to a painting of spray paints. Don't people also believe this rock to be a fractured 0 point? So there is a difference between believing that Chapter 6 has a flip side and that Chapter 6's flip side is Fortnite OG. So do we consider further afield events like the Ice Moon? That apparently came down to the original Chapter 1 map because of the storm, the cosmic storm that was caused by the butterfly event. And for Fortnite Ice Moon to make a reappearance, they don't even need time travel. It is established already that moon with the Ice King can travel to any and all realities. So I'm saying, will future Chapter 6 events affect Chapter 1 events and vice versa? But this is apparently our visitor, and I think I have a fantastic theory as to why this can be the case. Now, it's a little tinfoil hat, and I don't know if most of the evidence is circumstantial, but I think you're going to enjoy it nonetheless. So there's something about the 7 that's always bugged me, and it's the Meteorites themselves. The Visitor, the Scientist, and the Foundation all appear in Meteorites. So if I believe that this is a narrative paradox, and I also theorize, even back in Chapter 1 when we were experiencing it for the first time, I thought, I feel like to the other characters this has happened before. How does the Meteorites come into play? And it's a theory I've had for a while, that the last reality always has to backdoor it to access Reality Zero. The crack in the sky that the Visitor left behind. The spire with Raz. Why the hell is that? And if there is a narrative paradoxal loop that keeps occurring, that we're not going back in time but the events are having to keep being replayed for whatever reason, possibly this is some form of a failsafe for the 7 every time so far they failed. But does the last reality manipulate this possible paradox? Without the Visitor escaping that meteorite, getting that rocket and creating a rift in the sky which he failed to close, which as the 7 they should know how to close a sideways rift. And that sideways rift that was left open by the Visitor allowed Kevin to come to the island. Isn't that going to happen again? Jonesy throwing a rift device into the 0 point allowed the Foundation to make an appearance, but this led to the Foundation creating the Spire, which led Raz into the island and then the last reality. Yes, to save the 0 point of course. From the outset, it doesn't seem like the Scientist's involvement led to anything. And that was beneficial to the last reality, but those events cause the end. But as I said, narratively, it doesn't really matter how they came the first time, but what's important is now, is how them events play out now, and how we observe them now. Remember, the 7 got chromed. It sculpts his existence anew, a fate dark and the worst imaginable. So what we're seeing play out now in Fortnite OG, so possibly what we're seeing playing out in OG is direct consequences to the 7 being chromed. Now, the last reality has gotten the Visitor, put him in a pod in an asteroid, and sent him to the OG Chapter 1. Which, of course, he is destined to do again and again. And, of course, he might not even be aware he's doing this again. Obviously, there seems to be something slipping through. Of course, the Morse code messages that we are getting in OG currently. It's happening again. Something's wrong. But the last reality has been known to probe our memories. So maybe they can manipulate them as well. And for whatever reason now, I guess maybe for the Spirit Realm portal, need someone to crack the bubble. And even if it's on the other side, that will be enough. Again, I'm not saying this is time travel. I'm not saying that this occurred the first time. I'm not saying the 7 got chromed somehow before and the original Chapter 1 played out the same. I'm saying how we're observing this now, this is what's occurring for these events to happen. Obviously, this is still a theory, with the strongest sense of theory. Again, talking about something no happening the first time, it could have. Like, look at the vaults. Like, it doesn't look like Imagine Order or 7 technology. It looks like the last reality. So maybe we will never know what occurred the first time around. But this time around, the last reality deliberately sent him back to open a sideways rift to the bubble. For what reason, I don't know. The first time, it was to try and get the 0 point. But the cube wasn't strong enough to take the entire 0 point. Of course, now it might be strong enough to take the shard, but that's already in the Spirit Realm. So I'm not quite sure how that would correlate. Maybe they need a cube and the 0 shard. Anyway, let me know down in the comments what you think about this theory, and if you want me to extend on anything, let me know. And all the credits are down below in the description, so make sure to give them a follow. And until next time, it has been your boy, Mr. JLY. Till next time, bye.